recounting history. It means everything, even if you deny it. Cast it aside. That speaks to what you are, proves what happened here. Home isn't where you were born into this world. You taught me that. Part of your message, whether you meant it or not, can be a place of mind, a moment where you know who you are, the history of it, and they can be places you breathe life into.
Oh yeah, it's that time, baby. We're talking about Ulysses S. Studmuffin. Great character from a great game, right? I just know YouTube comments will have nothing but nuanced takes about his character and backstory. I'm disappointed, Fallout, but not surprised. God, I'm gonna blow my top. This whole website is just bad takes. Where is Oasis in this desert of illiteracy? Very well, YouTube's come down with bad reading comprehensionitis. No problem. I've got the antidote. Go, my title card! But enough yapping, I have to save my boy! Why do people get him wrong so often, and who is the man behind the mask? This, I'll explain, and more, but listen, I really am throwing you bare bull guys a bone here. You know how easy of a slam dunk this video could have been? All I'd have to say is, you know, it's weird Ulysses gets burned for being pretentious when Lanius, Graham, and Caesar don't, as in the murderer in football gear, the guy who quotes Bible verses at you, and the literal cosplayer who misquotes Hegel at you. Gee, I wonder why he gets flack and they don't. See? That quick, but no, I'm gonna head a different direction with this. And I think the best place to start would be the start before going through your interactions with the man. So let's take it back to 2011, shall we?
You are a courier, hired by the Mojave Express to deliver a package to the New Vegas Strip. What seemed like a simple delivery job has taken a turn for the worse.
Wake the f up, mailman, it's time to go on a journey. And past his Pip-Boy ping, you get word of Ulysses sooner than you might think. Whispers from Johnson Nash, Joshua Graham, Christine Royce, hell, you even find his house in Novak. And in Big Mountain, you get his tapes talking about this place called The Divide and how you gotta see it, bro. So you haul your ass there, go through Hopeville Silo, hear from the man himself, and...
There's your signal. Faint, but there. You came. Good. Curious, maybe. You walked the Mojave without a flag on your back. That'll end soon. Can't walk the long 15 and not have a nation's shadow fall on you.
He's odd, hard to parse, talking symbolically like many in the Legion, but dialed way up. And he knows you, your history, but won't let you in on his until you earn it. Alright, fine, whatever, you sultry man. I'll find your dumb holotapes in this dumb highway filled with nothing but bunkum and hogwash.
Back again. Left that crater behind. Got a few holotapes left. One's from the medical center. The woman, she fixed the recorder. Said it wouldn't last. Repayment for me, fixing her. She doesn't like debts. Can respect that. Payment enough. Just to hear someone who believes in the Brotherhood of Steel. Not Elijah. Different view. Same madness.
He's cogent, vulnerable. He opened himself up to Christine's mindset only to be disappointed. Very different from the man speaking through Edie, and here is the first crack in his mask. These tapes are crucial to grokking him because they show the stalwart face he puts on for you is surface level. And no duh, then he shoots down any mention to the holotapes when you interact. If you didn't want to find the answers, then yeah, you wouldn't realize there's any more to him. The man who saved Christine, who guided you through the DLCs, is buried in these tapes. But they're not the only thing buried here. Once you reach the high road and he talks about the divide and how is your home, the tunnelers, and now I think we should zoom out. Probably the loudest complaint I hear about Lonesome Road is how it forces a backstory on you. And I get it. In a vacuum. It's a game of agency, and what, this guy decides the divide was my home and I blew it up for no reason? That's stupid. But again, that's only true in a vacuum. Looking at the actual game, the score is very different. Pause. Think. What does Ulysses actually say? Boiling down, it's just what you already know. You are a courier, hired by the Mojave Express to deliver a package to the New Vegas Strip. Everything else is what he assumes about you or deliberate attempts to goad you, or himself, into a certain way of thinking. Maybe you've already clocked it, but Ulysses is an unreliable narrator. You can't take him at face value, but many still do. And expectedly, these are the same people calling Ulysses the ghost of Chris Avalone reaching through the screen to ruin my power fantasy. But when you next meet, he speaks about the end of the divide in no uncertain terms. There's no deflection here, no assumptions. You did this.
You delivered a package, had markings that matched those in the divide. Not all, but enough. It was a device, a detonator, one I'd never seen before, or heard before. You carried that thing to the divide. I know because I followed you as you walked the road, watched you do it. You brought it here, to the community you built, and you are responsible for what happened after, when the device opened, started to speak. When it did, the divide answered back. Those missiles you've seen, buried in their silos. They exploded beneath the ground, cracked the landscape. Sand, ash, the dead. The divide skies became a graveyard.
You brought life here with your deliveries, and you brought death with your last.
But didn't you just tell us to not treat his word as gospel?
Correct, I did, which is why the framing of Lonesome Road is so important to his narrative. It would be strange for your backstory to not be informed by your character. That's where Edie comes in. Edie, the fun little robot you find in Hopeville, is actually a detonator for the atomic warheads buried in the divide. And you walk Eddie through Lonesome Road to Ulysses' doorstep to enact his final Nuke Man plan. And this is the only New Vegas DLC where you don't have to finish it to leave. You could have turned back, as Ulysses is quick to note, and he wouldn't have the bomb. Plus at this point, you've already fat-fingered the Ashton missile, creating an irradiated wasteland that, oh, it's even named after you, how quaint. And on a broader scale, the platinum chip's a piece of history that brings death wherever you take it. It got you shot in the head after all. You've made the same mistake over and over and over again, except now you can do something about it. It's not original sin, it's a narrative choice that grounds you more in the world by giving you a pass but letting you choose how to deal with it. Disco Elysium did this with Harry Dubois by literally dropping you into the scene of his latest meltdown, and it was awesome and I love it, but one video essay at a time, alright? Anyway, you go confront Ulysses in his JRPG-ass villain room with his 10 and all special stats and healing bots and all that shit. He's Lonesome Road's final boss, and really the game's final boss given the level cap and narrative weight. But this is Fallout, so you can challenge him in dialogue as well as combat. And if you do try talking him down, it's a thing of beauty. Persuading him's more than finagling a 90 speech check. You have to draw upon your history and his to change his mind. Killing the divide before it could prove itself was your failure, but you built it in the first place, and you'll do it again for the Mojave. You get Ulysses to realize that he's making your mistake and, killing a bunch of people. What's great is this info is given to you organically through dialogue and exploration. And more to the point, it's partly why Ulysses acts the way he does. His facade is meant to be deconstructed by the player as a mechanical obstacle. No arbitrary checks, instead it combines the interactive and narrative aspects of the game to give you a worthy challenge. And ooh, it feels good! Not just because he fights with you, not just because he gives you a way to beat Lanius. No, it's rewarding for this man who's given you nothing the whole DLC to hear him say you gave him pause. You bested him.
Last tape, last message. In case you best me. If you're hearing this, you have. This world, I've walked a good part of it. I stopped only because of you. What you did gave me pause. Long ago, I crossed the Colorado, the first among the Legion to see Hoover Dam in all its glory. An old world wall, yet bridging two sides. And beyond it, a symbol of a two-headed bear. An idea great enough to challenge Caesar himself. Might kill him taking it, whether he won or lost. The bull needs to fight, needs the challenge. Without it, it falters, dies in the dust. Might be a lesson there in you and me.
People call him crazy, but the fact that he made this tape is proof enough that he has doubts. Really, he's mellow for a guy who almost nuked the world over his town getting blown up, but hey, we should all know how that feels, right? As you can probably guess, Ulysses is obsessed with history. I mean, he chooses a name, and this Ken Burns motherfucker picks a Civil War general, all just to prove a point about believing in dead symbols. He even wears America's Commonwealth flag as a reminder of its failure, the nerd. Side note, people tend to think Ulysses wants to literally bring back America or whatever, and you can tell that's not true. But what's funny is that characters in-universe canonically make that same false assumption.
Two are more alike than you know. Too wrapped up in the wrong bits of history to see ahead. Not judging. I know how it is.
So says the man with the old world flag on his back. America, the Commonwealth, burned away.
America sleeps. And until it's dead, I carry it. Just like I carried you. More than hope. Belief.
He's not waking up America like he's bringing back white picket fences or imperialism. He's talking about the nukes. But actually, let's circle back to those tapes. I've only focused on their gameplay importance so far. You know, collect the 6 talismans to defeat Ulysses with facts and logic. The tapes are cut between 2 stints he had in New Canaan and the Big Empty. I know it's all very exciting because, woo, Ulysses, the secret mastermind behind the DLCs, but they're really his story. The story of how he left the Legion and the story of how his master plan came to be. I'll start with New Canaan, but first, some background. Ulysses was born to the Twisted Hairs, a tribe with so much respect for symbolism that even their dreads have special meaning. They soon met Caesar's Legion, and the two joined forces to defeat their rivals in Arizona. But the Legion aren't like any clan or raiding troop. Very true to their heritage, they expand through lies and conversion. It was common for Roman troops to kidnap children of tribal leaders and then bring them back from Italy with stories of the civilized world. And like many in Gaul, the Twisted Hairs would be betrayed, conquered by their trusted ally, pacified by Wulpes at dry wells, enslaved or absorbed into the Legion as thanks for their assistance. It was here where Ulysses took his new name. It was here where his home died. He may have found a new home in the Divide, but we all know how that ended. The worst part is, like many in the Legion, the idea of civilization stuck deep into his mind. When he meets the Whitelegs, he thinks of them as no more than scavengers. He doesn't even realize he's repeating history until they bring it back to him. When he sees they've taken his braids and their meaning along with them. A ritual of the Twisted Hairs, debased and squandered in a bid to gain his favor. For a second time, his home dies in the masses of the Legion. But even once he left, their message stuck with him. When teaching the Courier a lesson, I always wondered why Ulysses did it in that way, killing scores of innocent people just to prove a point, but doesn't that sound like anyone we know?
I want you to witness the fate of the town of Nipton, to memorize every detail. And then, when you move on, I want you to teach everyone you meet the lesson that Caesar's Legion taught here.
And when he does leave, people forget this, he tried to let go. And why not? As far as he knows, the Courier's dead, his tribe's gone, and the Legion's doomed to splinter into civil war just like Rome did. So he settles down, mans a ranch. Basically, he does everything he can except see a therapist, but it doesn't take. We're not sure why, but to me it can only be seeing their name on the Mojave Express order. All his history flushed back, and in that moment, his desire takes him all the way to Big Mountain. Or probably, the timeline's super muddled. I mean, Ulysses mentioned the Courier to Christine, and I'm pretty sure he knows they're still alive, but then also they sent the map marker the second they left Doc Mitchell's house, and I really don't even know how to... It's curious hearing his Big Empty logs, because he's clearly looking for the Courier, but doesn't have any grand plan for them yet. That ends when he meets the think tank on what's probably the strangest day of his life and learns everything. But only after their raving negligence frustrates him so much that he asks them the armor-piercing question.
Who are you that do not know your history? And they awoke for a short time. said, "We remember. America. They didn't know it was gone. That, yet, they had cared once, before forgetting their history. I listened. I asked, was there anything left? Anything that still carries America's voice? They told me what lies in the heart of the divide, what can be found there, and the words to awaken it, and the one to speak them. As they were talking, kept seeing the Courier's shadow behind them, giving each their words weight. History cast aside, a home left behind.
And their answer, the what, why, and how of it. The divide was ended by nuclear warheads, many lying there still, and now Ulysses has the means to wake them up. From then on, he knew what he was fated to do. And that's the core of his character. He's a fatalistic guy front to back. He's been through the most, and he's from multiple cultures where symbolism is king, so he ascribes meaning to every bad moment in his life. He's the only survivor of the divide, saved by the American flag on his back. He had to suffer to learn an important lesson about history. That couldn't have been an accident, right? So he made peace with the Courier's message until he saw your name on that ledger. And he realized that while he's been grappling with it, the Courier forgot the divide. He thought its destruction was a lesson, but it was a mistake. The same mistake he made at Hoover Dam. And he damn sure won't bear the burden of knowledge alone. Because he's so caught up in the end of the divide, he forgot you started it. You didn't build it just to destroy it. That's his meaning placed on your actions. And in the end, you stop him by proving you won't make the same mistake in the Mojave. Ulysses is not an ideology. He's a man, a disturbed man who sees himself as a student of history when really he's a victim of it. Right, so Ulysses, you're starting to grok him now, right? Wait, did I use grokking twice in this script? Victim of circumstance, repeats the same mistakes, but they're mistakes informed by his character. I mean, even the bomb the long 15 plan draws from Big Cheese Caesar's misunderstanding of Hegelian dialectics. His actions aren't justified, his emotions are. I think that's a fair enough reading of his character. And no matter what he claims, he doesn't have a salient point, does he? Okay, at this point, Ulysses is definitely not in the right emotional state to be making judgments, but hear me out. Remember, you don't stop him by calling a therapist or giving him Prozac. No, you tell him he's repeating history's mistakes. And also your mistakes, but still, is he right to want to avoid that, even by taking drastic measures? Well, which mistakes? Obviously the divide's one, it's key to his everything. To him, if the divide couldn't make it here, a place free from the trappings of the old world, then nothing could, nothing should. A town with a fresh shot being swallowed up like that shattered his faith in nations, period. It's a start, but a surface level reading of his fears. Chew on this. Ulysses didn't know what blew up the divide until he met the think tank. All he knows is Courier bring Bleepy Thing start talking, Canyon go boom! If he did know, he would have used those missiles a lot earlier. Oh my god, could you imagine if he gave the White Legs nukes? That would have made Honest Hearts interesting instead of being a racist roadblock. The answer Ulysses never expected was that his home was ended in atomic fire just like the old world did. And wow, I wonder why in a post-nuclear RPG he'd want to remind you to not repeat the mistakes of history. World War IV will be fought with sticks and stones? Yeah, right, nerd. There's a whole warehouse of these things. Supplies are low and it's a bare bull market, baby. Yeehaw! So yeah, I get why Ulysses is a bit doubtful about humanity's future. Also, this is why I don't buy any of that but the divide was an accident stuff. Like, that's not gonna hold up in court, buddy. How many times have gaffes and slip-ups almost ended our time on this planet? Oh dear god, there's so many. Okay, let me just give y'all an example. On September 26, 1983, Soviet early warning systems detected 5 nuclear missiles entering their airspace. Duty officer Stanislav Petrov's job was to report this to his superiors in preparation for a reciprocal attack. But instead, he declared it a false alarm, despite only being half sure of this. Luckily, he was right, and it turned out the missiles were actually refracted sunbeams off of high-altitude clouds. If he'd followed his training and called it as a strike, do you think we'd let him off the hook? No! God, no! If we were even still around to make that judgment. This kind of power makes any accident a death sentence for humanity. Ulysses isn't just mad about the divide, he's mad because you proved anyone can restart the apocalypse by tripping over their own balls. But that's not his only slight against the Courier. The impact one person can have on the world is an in-lore message too. The nuke stuff is subtext, it can apply to any schmo, but choice is the Courier's power. The power of true agency, especially in a game like New Vegas where choices actually matter, unlike Fallout 3 where it's just like, oh, do I blow up a city for no reason or do I not do that? Okay, well, in context, it's the obvious selfish option among many others. And the fact this choice exists is proof of the Courier's might. Ulysses is sweating right now. At least if you're that type of Courier, if you submit to the impulses that ended the world.
Or if you just don't give a fuck.
Ulysses and the divide are the results of the smallest actions. What does that say about the big ones? Have you made the right calls? Are you built for the flag you follow? This is the divide's message to you. That's why it takes choice away from you. Just this once, no, you can't do whatever you want, you have to think things over. It's risky, wavering agency for the narrative, but in my opinion it works. It ties back to the core of the whole franchise. The story of Lonesome Road is the only one that lives up to the tagline,
If war doesn't change, men must change, and so must their symbols. Even if it is nothing at all, know what you follow, Courier, just as I followed you to the end. Whatever your symbol, carry it on your back and wear it proudly when you stand at Hoover Dam.
but it helps that you're never actually robbed of choices, despite what many would have you believe. It's a narrative anti-power fantasy, not a mechanical one. You can choose to engage with it or not, and usually the ones that don't are the ones that, you know. Likewise, Ulysses is a character who can be engaging if you let him do that for you. For all I've said, I can't force you to. I can't tell you what to think. If you think he's pretentious or boring or one note, then that's your prerogative. I mean, you'd be wrong and I despise you if you do, but again, that's your call. Ignorance is a choice! Alright, this is a little bit of a kayfabe section. I should clarify that this video wasn't made in retaliation to any other video. Or at least, you know, I mean, maybe it was a reaction to a certain particular video that came out recently when I started writing this, but it's not meant to be like a call out post to that or whatever. But I think a lot of the anger around this guy just comes from how obsessed New Vegas fans are with the politics of it, even though it's like the most boring part. It's like, oh wow, it is like, which of the four obviously bad options for the world is the best one? It's like, there's more on offer here, and that's also kind of like the point within a point of this video, if you want to call it that. This is the thanks for helping with the video script. Thank you, Dinky. Thank you, Pepperoni Pizza. Thank you, Compound Killer. And thank you, Reese, of course. Oh, and also thank you, Degeneracy, for letting me use their comic panels. Follow them on Tumblr. They're really good. Do it right now. And in addition, thank you to my 2 patrons who have been standing firm this whole time. Thank you, Reese, of course, and Anime Viewer. You're my real ones. I promise once I have more patrons, I'll actually start, you know, updating the Patreon thing. I know I've forgotten to do it for like 4 months, but it's because the last one underperformed and I just didn't feel like bothering. Don't even worry about it, lol. I will be uploading, but to that being said, I'll be uploading an outtake from my last video for patrons only. So if you want to get some video footage of me screaming and yelling at my camera at One Night at Flumpty's 3, you can do that. I'm burping. It's like almost 7 p.m. My back is tired. My chest is tired somehow. I don't even want to think about it. F it. Bye.